Welcome to the Scaling Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Harper, and today's guest is Scott Ball. He is the president of FiiZ Drinks. We talk today about the soda wars. If you don't know about the soda wars, we're going to talk about them today. There are different franchises and different companies that are kind of doing a lot like what Crumble and some of these other things did, where there was the cookie wars. Well, Scott is on the front line of the soda wars. He's growing a franchise brand that they've added over 200 locations in the last 2.5 years. He talks about what types of operators they're looking for, why they look for those types of operators, how he changed culture from a more mom and pop style franchisor to a more multi-unit franchisor and the challenges around that. He talks about how to grow a franchise system. He was a franchisee first, built multiple Dunkin' Donuts, had an exit there, built another location, built a bunch of units there, had an exit there, and we talk about all that today. So make sure to stick around. I know you're going to enjoy this episode. Scott, welcome to the show.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, so where are you based?
Yeah, so we're based actually in Salt Lake City. That's where our headquarters are, and it's kind of where the brand got started about 11 years ago. It was started by a kind of a mom and pop, decided to create this old school kind of soda shop concept. They built it up to about 50 or so locations, and then our company came in about 2 years ago, purchased the brand, and really decided we wanted to take this model and kind of franchise it all over North America. So far so good. I've actually been president now for a little over a year, and really our goal is to take it from a 50 store concept, to a 500 plus store concept. And so far so good. Came in, had a lot of, we had some changes to make. We had to kind of change the infrastructure of how we do things. To kind of create that franchise model that made sense, as we continue to bring in new partners and whatnot. But glad to say we're up over 70 units now, and we've sold this year over 200 additional units.
Nice.
Not only here in the U.S., but we just recently signed a deal in Canada. So we've got our
Congrats.
first store open, our second one's on the way, and we're excited about that as well. So yeah, FiiZ is doing well. The whole dirty soda craze world has really been good, and we're getting a lot of attention right now, and that's great for us. And at the end of the day, I think we've got a really fantastic business model. So for entrepreneurs or people looking to get involved, in another brand, we think we've got a really good model that makes sense, and will help continue to grow.
So tell me about the company that you had that came in and acquired it. How did you get involved in franchising, and how did you find the concept?
Yeah, great question. So I'll give you a little bit of background on me. So I've been in the food service, hospitality, franchise industry now for about 25, 30 years. I started my career on the business development side for brands like Arby's, TJ Cinnamons. We also own the beverage Snapple Group. So got involved with that, and then really I had this entrepreneurial bug, working in corporate America. I'm like, I'd love to do this on my own. And I started looking around at different franchise opportunities, ended up getting involved with Dunkin' Donuts, and started by purchasing 2 locations in the South Florida market. And 15 years later, 20 plus locations. Built a CML, which is like a central manufacturing facility, where I partnered with another franchisee, and we built a unit, basically a commissary, to produce all of our donuts and whatnot, and we sold them throughout our system. So did that for a long time. As part of that, I was also on the brand advisory council of Dunkin' Donuts, so I was involved in strategic planning and marketing and product development, and really got to see also on the insides of how a brand works from an operational standpoint as well. So like I said, did that for a number of years. I had the opportunity to sell my Dunkin' business back a while ago, now about 10 years, 8-10 years. And worked with some other brands, got involved with some other concepts, and had also sold those off. And I got a call one day from somebody looking to bring on somebody to help lead, the FiiZ brand. And after a few months of interviewing and whatnot, really was a great fit. It was me going back into the beverage world, I was really, really excited about. And I think the ownership of FiiZ really saw the experience that I had, both from a franchisor perspective, but also from a franchisee perspective. And so it's been a good fit. It's been a great year. We're really, really excited about the path that we're on, and it's taken some work. We kind of had to change the model a little bit, get away from that, that small mom and pop kind of mentality, which, by the way, works very, very well. But in order to get it to that next level, we really had to, change the infrastructure and how we do things. So we're good. I mean, we're real excited, and I think my experience has played a key role in transforming the brand in a relatively short period of time.
What was the other brands you got involved in between Dunkin and FiiZ?
Yeah, so the big one that I was involved with is a company called the Poke Company.
Okay.
They were a poke bowl concept that was more of I would say, a Southeast regional brand. They were mostly in Florida and Georgia. I was one of the initial franchisees in that brand. I opened up a bunch of units in the South Florida market. And like I said, a few years back, got an opportunity to sell it and, and move on from that. And so again, between Arby's, TJ's, Dunkin' Donuts, obviously the Poke Company, I've been in the business. I've been on both sides, both as a franchisor and a franchisee. And it's funny, I tell my franchise partners even now, like, I'm a franchisee at heart, right? I get what you guys are going through. I understand, what it takes to be a franchisee, but I also understand the other side as well. So let's work together. It is a partnership in everything we do. Our success is based on your success. If you guys are successful and you're making money and you're going to continue to expand, and as a brand, we're going to continue to do the same thing and continue to pump more money into the system as well.
What are some of the major differences on the franchisor side that have been an adjustment than on the franchisee side?
Yeah, great question. I will tell you that, in this franchise world, it's interesting because when you really take a look at it, a franchisor is typically, their main objective is to build top line sales, right? And for a franchisee, it's really more about, franchisee profitability. I want to make money, make money, make money. So when you think about it, those two goals really do conflict a little bit, right, at the core. But I think it's really, really important that, me as the leader of this brand is to kind of find that middle ground, right? And see that, hey, listen, we're all on the same page here. And I'm going to do everything we can to not only, and I tell my franchise partners all the time, I have two main pillars. It's grow your sales and lower your costs, right? So I'm going to make sure that, a big way of growing our business is through product innovation. And I'm going to make sure that every product we bring online meets a certain threshold is from a cost standpoint, right? I'm not going to just bring something in to bring it in if you guys aren't going to be profitable on the backside. So it's really about creating that it's really about relationship building and a trust building and making sure that, we both understand each other's goals. And at the end of the day, I think, I try to bridge that gap and bring everybody together and say, listen, we're here to help you guys. My success will be based on your success. If you guys are not growing, then from a brand perspective, that's an issue, that's a challenge, and we've got to do better. So that's kind of my mentality on that. But it is a challenge. I mean, it is definitely a challenge. And listen, being with Dunkin' Donuts, for example, the brand much different in that they were a much bigger brand. They were $1 billion plus brand at the time when I was there. Some decisions that were made didn't always necessarily positively impact franchisees, but at the end of the day, we figured out a way to make it work, make sure there's a revenue share, as part of that. And, we'll continue to do that with FiiZ. FiiZ has got great opportunity. What's really cool about FiiZ right now is we're a young emerging company. We've been around 11 years, but we've really only been franchising for about 2 years. And the fact that we've been able to transform kind of what we do, how we do it, and it's taken bringing in the right people, putting in the right systems, going back and renegotiating with some of our vendors and partners, but we feel like we're in a good place, and we're really excited, and this is our like kind of inflection point right now. Like, we're small, but we're going to get big, really, really quick. So over the next couple of years, we've got a few hundred stores to open up. So we got a lot of work to do.
Nice. the 50 corporate units that were there when you franchised, are they largely in Utah?
Yeah, most of them, believe it or not, were in Utah. When I first got on, I would say we had a couple of stores outside, but mostly out on the West Coast. We had a couple stores in the Nevada area. We were in Boise, Idaho. But I would say out of those 50 initially, I would say 40 or so were in the state of Utah.
Wow.
Utah's a soda market,
It totally is, yeah.
it totally is a soda market, and that's kind of the birthplace of it. And we have some other competitors that are out there, and they all started in Utah. And what's really cool through social media and marketing, the word's kind of gotten out, and people are excited about it all over the country. And I got to be honest, I'm really lucky in that I get to partner, with three of the largest consumer companies in the world in Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and Dr. Pepper Keurig. And being able to leverage their insight and leverage their data and really puts us at a position where, everybody knows these products, right? And the fact that I can sell all three, inside of our units, I think is pretty cool and pretty special. And being able to utilize, their brand equity in what we try to do and try to accomplish, I think is a big win.
That's awesome. Scott, I'm going to just check to see when I'm going to hit stop. We're going to restart, or we're not going to restart, but we'll start from there. I just want to make sure it uploads because yours told you. Okay, so for franchise development, you said that was your start when you were doing this franchise. You said business development for
so I started on the business development side, selling franchises. It's funny.
What year was that?
Oh God, please don't make me do that. That's a great question. You know what? Oh God, it was just before in the late 1990s. Now I'm aging myself, so I want to thank you for that. But you know what? I got an opportunity. I got to work for the Triarch Restaurant Group, publicly traded company. Like I said, they owned Arby's, TJ Cinnamons. They owned the owner of the Snapple Beverage Group at the time. And I started in business development, and I kind of created a little bit of a niche in that my responsibility was actually in what we called alternate channels. So we would take these brands and sell them into casinos, hotels.
Oh, that's cool.
Gas and convenience stores, stadiums, airports. So, which was really a great opportunity for me because I got to work with some pretty big companies. Park Place Entertainment, which is a big casino company. We put our brands inside of casinos all through Mississippi and Gulfport and Biloxi and Memphis and Tennessee and places like that. And that was pretty cool. And we had gas and convenience stores, all over the East Coast that were putting in our product. So really gave me an opportunity to kind of learn the business side of the restaurant world, on the other side. And God, if you had asked me 20 years or 30 years ago, hey, would I ever want to be in the restaurant business? I told you were crazy. But But you know what? Once you get into it, it kind of becomes a little bit of a drug, right? You really start to get into it. You get into the weeds, and you're like, you know what? I really like this. It's kind of what I love about it is no 2 days are ever the same, right? Whether you're at the the CEO level or you're at the store level, every day is different. And honestly, being able to impact people's lives, we consider, especially, on the FiiZ side, we're a fun brand. And being able to create an experience for our guests, I think is a pretty cool opportunity. And, it's a challenge for our staff and our team members and our franchise partners. But at the end of the day, like, you're having a positive impact on people. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I got started in franchise.
Okay.
That was how my career in franchising started as well, was helping grow. So I'm on the service side. So we did I grew up for a carpet cleaning brand, which was also based in Utah, a brand called ChemDry.
Oh, sure.
And then grew a drywall repair brand. But franchise development and helping people become business owners is the thing that made me fall in love with franchising, to decide, I'm going to now become a franchisor. And then you and I are also similar in the sense that I took a corporate business that was non-franchised, and I built the franchise system, which is a completely different business than the power washing business in Pennsylvania that started in 1990, or the soda business that started 11 years ago. The franchising business is a completely different and should be a completely separate company. So when you bought FiiZ, did you guys buy out the whole thing, or did you bought the whole thing?
Yeah, so our owner, his name is Steve Smith. He's from
Okay.
Utah, and he's involved in. He's a tech guy. He's involved with many other, businesses. He's got a family office here in Utah, and he wanted to do something that he knew would make an impact locally, and looked around and determined that, hey, this is a brand that he wanted to purchase, and so he purchased it wholly from the original owners, and here we are today, and he's had a vision, and we talked about it when I was first meeting with him, like, hey, where do you want to go with this? And he wants to take it to the next level, and he thinks
And
that.
was it private equity or private capital? Like, how did you guys?
Yeah,
did you
private
raise
capital.
money?
It's his capital. Like I said, it's kind of like a family office, and again, he's done well. He's very involved with the tech. He's involved in other tech companies as well, banking, technology. But he really wanted to have a consumer brand that was close to home, and that's kind of where FiiZ came in. And listen, he now recognizes that what we do here in Utah can be replicated in other places and be
Sure.
just as successful, if not more successful, in other markets. And clearly, we have found that success. And the fact that, and listen, when I came on, one of my challenges was, okay, I got to prove this concept outside of Utah, right? Because
Right,
the
sure.
soda craze is all Utah. I've got to go outside and say, okay, is this going to work in California, Nevada, and then work our way, out towards the East Coast. And the good news is it is working. And
That's great.
the stores that we've now opened outside of Utah are some of our highest volume locations. So, we're really excited about that. And, we're also looking for a different franchisee, right? So when
Yeah.
the brand first started, it was really more of a mom and pop. Most of my franchisees in Utah are single unit operators. But we knew if we really wanted to expand this, we really needed to look at more multi-unit developer type mentalities, people that have food service restaurant experience or business experience that really can scale this brand. If I'm going to go into a New York market or a Florida market or a Chicago market, I'm not doing it a onesie twosie. We had to do
Sure.
it, big, and we've been successful with that. And we've sold territory we've sold out already Colorado, Oklahoma. We're negotiating in the Dakotas right now, Montana.
And all multi-unit, multi-brand.
All multi-unit,
all
yeah. With the
operators.
exception of what I would say are existing markets, i.e., really just Utah. Everything else is a minimum of a 5-store deal.
Okay.
And in some cases, 20 to 25 store deals. Just depends on the market. So we're getting ready to finalize. I'll give you a little peek under the tent, but we're getting ready to finalize a deal up in the New York, New Jersey area, and that's going to be a 25 store deal in some areas up there. We've done the same. Like I said, we've sold out the state of Colorado. We're getting ready for a 10 plus store deal in Florida. Atlanta, we just closed the deal again. 5+ locations up there. So that's kind of our model. That's kind of our structure. Listen, if I got to go into a new market and I got to bring in, supply chain and marketing and ops, I'm not going to do it for a single store. We're going to do it, for multiple. So yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, we made the decision before we launched Rolling Suds that we were not going to do any single unit owners.
Yeah.
I mean, in my experience, and a lot of franchisors wouldn't necessarily say this, but single unit owners fail more frequently.
Yep.
And they require more help. So I have to pay more in infrastructure to support someone who is more likely to fail and also produces less royalties. And so the business model fundamentally doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Like, it just doesn't
totally
make-
agree. And if I can spend my time working with 50 franchisees instead of having to work with 500 franchisees, my time is better spent working with masses. So yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And to your point, typically when they're larger groups, they're better funded, better capitalized. they understand the intricacies, of this type of business and what franchising is all about. So yeah, totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, and we launched our brand about the same time as a franchise as you did. You said a couple of years that you've been
Yeah.
franchising?
Yep.
So 23?
Actually,
2023?
the end of 22, I believe. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so I acquired the brand, started negotiating the deal, and then acquired the brand in January of 23, but I started negotiating the deal in like September of 22, and then took the brand to market in 23.
Okay.
And since then, we've grown to 326 units operating in 35 states with 118 trucks on the road.
Oh,
And
wow. That's awesome.
we consider a unit open when it has a truck in it.
Yeah.
Just because, like, a lot of service businesses will be like, all right, you're gonna buy 5 units. It's a geographical area. They'll open all the units right away, but then there's no like requirement for each unit of like some type of. It's all mobile based, right? So it's like they'll open it all. My thought was well, if you're gonna buy a unit, you're gonna need to put a truck in it. So instead of having like you buy 5 stores, if you buy 5 units, you're buying the rights to open 5 trucks. And we have a time in which to open those trucks by.
Yeah.
So those 326 units are owned by 92 franchise owners.
Okay.
And then 85 of them are open out of the 92.
That's
and
awesome.
then they have 118 trucks. So they've added second and third trucks. But most of our franchisees launched last year and this year. They're all very in.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So similar, we're kind of on similar trajectories, just different
I'm
industries.
curious from a sales standpoint, did you do that internally or did you outsource that
Internally.
You did, okay. Which is what we're doing as well.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of had a leg up because my background prior to this was in
On the
franchise development, right? So like most brands go to market and they don't have the knowledge
Correct.
of franchising, number one, or certainly not how to sell franchises or how to award franchise territories. Whereas like that was the thing that no matter what, we knew we were going to be able to do. Like we could get units sold and get them open.
Yep.
Most importantly. So we did it all in-house, and what that allowed us to do too is hang on to more capital, because if you outsource your franchise sales, you're going to get franchisees, but you're going to give away a lot of the resources, the capital there.
Yep.
And so we were able to keep it in-house. And then I personally awarded the first 160 units myself.
Nice.
So did the franchise development. I would wake up at 5 a.m. I'd run the business from 5 to 7:30. I'd get on calls at 7:45. I'd be on the calls till 6. I'd put the kids down from 8 to midnight. I'm running the business. We were hiring a new person every 13 days for the
That's awesome.
first 12 to 13 months, probably. So it was wild. And then last year, so April is when I stepped out of franchise development, franchise sales, and I was like, I'm gonna go and build a C-suite, and I'm gonna create a ton of content. And I think that the content will decrease our cost to acquire franchisee, which is our biggest cost, which is brokers that we work with. And so I started creating a lot of content, and we decreased our cost to acquire franchisees significantly, such that we could pay for a sales team and also a C-suite of executives. And then just about 4 months ago, I stepped down as CEO and into a chairman of the board role, so that I could bring in a CEO to get us from 300 to kind of 600 units, which is a completely different skill set.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So,
great job.
thanks. It's been wild.
Yeah,
It's been wild.
Yeah, no, listen, it's exciting. Listen, for me, it's been an experience. I've really enjoyed the challenge. When I came in, I knew there was, we needed to do things differently. And change is always, a challenge, especially for, when you're in a franchise system. But I think generally speaking, our franchise partners have really, embraced the change. I think they see a whole different opportunity here, and whereas they used to think of things as very mom and pop-ish, we're trying to say, hey, listen, I've now created an R&D department. We've now got, marketing, and we're doing things the right way, and we're planning it out 12 months in advance. So they're starting to see all that, and I think at the end of the day, like I said earlier, my job is to grow your business and reduce your costs. So at the end of the day, you're making more money, right? It's really that simple. There's a lot that goes on in between all that, but at the end of the day, that's truly what it's about, and that's why people get involved in in franchising.
What were some of the major changes you knew that you had to make once you kind of stepped into the role?
Yeah, great question. I think one of the first things is really just evaluating our team. Again, some of the people that were part of us were, I'm not going to say they weren't good people. They just didn't understand, it all starts at ops, right? It all starts at operations, and just making sure you're maintaining the integrity of the brand and the equity in the brand. And, for a perfect example is they didn't even have like an assessment, structure set up where, I have franchise business consultants that go in and just review what they're doing and making sure they're doing things right and making sure they're offering the right products and the recipes are being followed and the systems and food safety and, all that. So coming in, that was one of the first things we had to do. And actually I brought in a new director of ops who had a lot of restaurant experience, and we kind of just had to change the culture a little bit. So yeah, that was a big part. Once we knew the foundation was starting to go where we needed it to go, and then it really became a function of marketing and development, right? So I wanted to be able to create the concept that people were going to be excited about and proud about. So literally threw away the current marketing program, which really wasn't much of one, brought in a new director of marketing, and really started to, I think, do things the right way. Come up with a monthly calendar on what we're going to promote and make sure that we're spending our money, wisely. And obviously social media is a big part of what we do. Listen, we're not a brand like Dunkin yet where we can go on TV all day and, and so forth. So we got to do things more organically, right? We got to work in our local communities. We got to, do the right partnerships. So really just doing that, I thought was a big piece. And then once that foundation's built, then we can go out and sell it, right? Now we got a story to tell, and now we've got, an opportunity to put out there. So, since January 1, I told my director of franchise sales, like, go, you're off and running, and we are. And like I said, we've sold over 200 locations so far this year. We'll probably get a few more done between now and the rest of this year. But like I said, we're up to 70 plus units now. I think I have 3 more coming online in the next 60 days, and then then we're off to 2026, right? And figure out that next stage. But our immediate goal is to get to 500, like you mentioned earlier. And I think we're on our way. We just did a partnership deal in Canada. So we're really excited about our partners up there. These guys are restaurateurs. They've got experience. They've owned and operated other brands. And they're going to be our master franchisor up there. And first unit's open. They've sold some additional ones as well. And over the next 10 years, we're expecting up to 100 units up there. So
that's great.
Great. It's been a cool experience. You think. Look, Canada's different, consumer behavior is a little bit different, but we were shocked at how many people knew about FiiZ and they had known about, dirty sodas. And it's like, we don't like to use the term dirty sodas, but I say to my team, like, we've kind of been pushing off on it, but I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. Like, that's what people recognize. That's what people understand. Let's embrace it. Let's turn it into a positive and not necessarily a negative. But yeah, we were really surprised on how people really knew what this was all about. And it's been fun. It's been an interesting journey so far.
So how are you guys finding your franchisees?
Yeah, it's funny. Up until, I would say, when did we turn it on? In like July. It's really pretty organic, just through social media, just through, like referrals that we've been getting. We didn't have a lot of, we weren't doing a lot of marketing, so to speak, on franchise sales. And I gotta be, I was actually surprised. I couldn't believe the amount of coming through our website, coming through our social media channels. I was really surprised at how many people were coming in. We were literally, we were getting 10 to 15 new leads a week. And
Wow.
we've closed a pretty significant portion of those. And
That's awesome.
but having said all that, we literally just started to do some additional paid advertising that we just started this summer, which has also done well for us. But it's funny, like we've met a couple of groups that we've signed, and they've been very impressed with us. Even though some of them haven't even opened a unit yet, they've been so impressive. They've actually referred us to some other folks that we've since signed on as well. So
That's great.
I think I think the power of our brand. I think our team has done a really, really good job on going there, and it's done well for us. It's done well for us. And listen, through these podcasts and the speaking that I do, word's getting out there, and we've got a great PR guy who's introduced us to some folks through some events and stuff that we've done. So. Yeah, it's been pretty organic, to be honest. I think we're going to scale that up a little bit, for 2026. But again, to get from 500 eventually to even more, it's going to take a different approach. But so far, I think I like the trajectory that we're on.
That's awesome. So would multi-unit franchise conference be somewhere where you guys would go?
Oh,
Would that
absolutely.
be,
Absolutely.
are
It's
you going to that
funny.
one?
We just discussed this, my franchise guy and I. He's like, we haven't done any trade shows this year. So, you know what? I said, let's do it. Like, let's plan it for 2026. Let's get it on the calendar.
Yeah.
Let's do it. It's funny. We recently just got introduced to a group, believe it or not, out of India, who is very interested in our brand. So we're actually planning to go out to there's a franchise expo at the end of November that we're
In
actually,
India?
yep, in Mumbai.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, so it's cool. And it's funny, like, what I've learned, India is not a big, it's funny when you look at data, alcohol is on the decline, right?
Oh, yes.
Soda
So far on the decline.
and soda
Yeah.
and beverages are on the rise, and India is not a alcohol country.
Yeah.
It's a religious thing, and very similar to Utah, right?
Yeah.
So they're totally excited, and they've actually got some of their own quote unquote soda shops, in India. So we got approached by a group, a very large group that is very excited about the possibilities. So we're starting those conversations right now. But yeah, so we definitely want to plan on attending more franchise conferences, expos,
I think
things
we're
like
going to
that.
go to MUFC next year. We do the majority of our deals still come through broker networks. So we
Okay.
go to a lot of broker network conferences. But as I continue to do podcasts like this and content, we significantly ratcheted up the organic side. But multi-unit, so we're like majority commercial power washing. We're like 70% commercial work. So the sales cycle for commercial jobs is longer.
Yep.
Then you do the work. It takes us a period of time, however long. If it's a big job, $40,000 job, it's going to take longer than a few days. So then you're doing the work. Then you have a pay cycle of maybe 45 days. So essentially, like the carrying costs, the more commercial you are, so if you're like 80-90% commercial,
Yeah.
you have more carrying costs.
Yeah.
Whereas resident, if you're doing 30-40% residential, like it covers a lot of the costs. But
Yeah.
what we found is that we just need people that have a significantly higher risk tolerance and capital
Okay.
in order to kind of meet the demand of commercial pressure washing. So we've signed up a handful of multi-unit, multi-brand operators from, like the largest Fast Signs franchisee is a franchisee of ours, the largest Filta franchisee, one of the largest Pay More franchisee is also a Rolling Subs franchisee, and that one has 15 territories and 6 trucks in 3 different states, right? So as we think about who is our kind of long-term, like who's going to take the brand to $1 billion in system-wide sales, well, it's probably some of the similar people you're targeting that want to open 10 trucks or 15 trucks or 20 trucks, and the costs associated with that are higher. So multi-unit franchise conference, which is put on by Franchise Update Media,
Okay.
which actually the IFA just purchased.
Okay.
Franchise Update Media. Interestingly enough. So they also put on FLDC, but the multi-unit franchise conference would be a really good spot for you guys, because all it is multi-unit, multi-brand operators that are going there looking for potentially other concepts. So people who have 20 Dunkins or 20 Zaxby's or 32 Wendy's locations or whatever. And so I think it's a pretty significant cost to go and expo there, but we're gonna do it next year. It's like, I think it's in March in Vegas, if I'm not mistaken.
What was the name of that one again? I'm sorry.
MUFC, the multi-unit franchise conference. That'd be a really good spot for you guys. I go to a lot of these conferences. I have a pretty close eye. I keep a pretty close eye on the franchise industry as a whole, so I'm happy to be helpful. But I think that's probably the best spot for you. You could certainly go to trade shows and stuff, but you're really going to want to target like these types of, $40 million a year people who have the cash. And I don't think those people are at trade shows.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Those are more the individual mom and pop.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah,
Agree.
MUFC would be a good use of time and capital for you.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. And by the way, from a broker standpoint, I know you referenced that you use a lot of broker networks. Who do you use? Who do you recommend for that? And do you like that model, or?
I do. So the great thing about brokers is, if it's 100 leads to one person, if you start at the very top of the funnel, let's just say, you've got to have the infrastructure, if you're just organic, to filter the 100 to get the one on the calendar of your
Right.
Filter go from appointment to set an appointment to webinar to FTD review, and they're just gonna fall off. Whereas what brokers do is it's like they do a lot of that kind of 100 to 20, filtering, right?
Yeah.
And it takes time to establish the relationships necessary in the broker community in order to be effective there. A lot of people will join a broker network like FranServe or like FranChoice or IFPG, and they'll just assume that they're just going to get all these leads. And all it is that you're paying to join those networks is having a seat at the table. Then you have to call and make the relationships with the consultants or with the brokers, whatever they call themselves. It's just dependent on which head network and what they refer to themselves as. Well, there's one network that calls themselves coaches. So they essentially help shepherd the candidate through the discovery process. And they'll usually, the best brokers present somewhere between 3 to 5 brands after they've done an assessment of the candidate.
Yep.
And then they present the brand. So by the time they reach you, they already know about your brand. They've been vetted from a quality standpoint. They have the capital necessary, ideally, to afford the franchise. And so if you have 30 brokers who all present your brand regularly, you exponentially increase your ability to scale.
Okay.
Because now, let's say your salesperson on organic might be able to deal with 250 leads a month max. Like that's his capacity or whatever, let's just say. Well, if you have 30 brokers who are each going through 100 leads a month that they present to you, and you've got 30 type, so you can just scale faster. But it takes time to develop the relationships.
So are you using multiple brokers, or is there one or two in particular that you use?
Oh yeah, we work with 5 different broker networks and brokers across all the networks. I mean, with Patchboys, which was the brand I was on before this, we did 223 units in 2 years.
Okay.
And 187 of them were with one broker network.
Oh wow!
But in each network, there's 200 brokers.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just a matter of how kind of like deep you go within the network, and really it's about like. You would spend a lot of your time going to those things because they want to talk to the person running it and know that like the franchisees are going to get taken care of. They're going to get open. Like, this is a real concept. Because I mean, they're presented on like they've got, some of them have 700 brands in their portfolio. So it's like, what's going to make you and your brand stand out?
So what are the top two that you would recommend?
I don't want to make any of the other ones mad because they're all good. What I will say is we just, by the nature of where my relationships are, FranServe is where we do a lot of our deals. It's not to say that the other ones are worse or better. Yep. It's just that that's where I've spent my time in franchising, and so that's where my relationships are. So when I acquired Rolling Suds, the FranServe folks that are like, they know my kids' names, like we've known each other for years. They were like, Aaron, whatever brand you're in on, like I'm in, like we'll present whatever brand you're in on, right? So you have to do a lot more legwork in the other networks to establish those relationships, which requires you to go to the events, reach out to them regularly. I'm going snowboarding with one of them in like 6 weeks, and we're going to be in Utah. We're going to Snowbird, actually.
Oh, nice.
So those types of things take time, but effectively, once you have those relationships, it's an unlimited funnel, assuming that you can move units and also get them open.
Yeah, I talked to FranServe in the past. Again, we decided not to go that route, but it is something, to your point, if I want to scale and continue to scale, I think working with some of these broker networks does make sense. So
yeah, and I don't know that there's any other of the soda concepts.
I haven't seen it, not with them.
The networks.
Yeah. I mean, our biggest competitor is 95% corporate. They did a little bit of, and I'm talking about Swig. They did a little bit of franchising, but mostly corporate, which, they just have a different mentality, and that's what makes us a little bit unique from them as well. So.
Yeah, no, and I'm happy to be helpful there. So talk to me about the Soda Wars. I've heard about it. Tell me about how it is to be.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I think the Soda Wars are in full steam. Which I actually think is a positive. I will tell you that when I was with Dunkin, I remember, talking to folks and say, hey, people say to me, what do you think of Starbucks? And I said, it's the best thing that ever happened at Dunkin' Donuts was Starbucks, because it put coffee on the map. It made coffee cool. And if you look at Dunkin' Donuts over the course of the last, 20 years, we went from a soda shop to a coffee beverage shop, to the point where they've removed donuts from their name. So I think competition is great. As you're drinking a Smoothie King right there. But no, listen, I think competition is great. I think it just proves that this is not a fad. This is something that's here to stay. It's basically Swig and ourselves. There's a couple other local shops, local companies in Utah, but outside.
So there's no other franchises?
What's that?
Soda franchise? I thought there were other soda franchises.
There's a concept called Thirst.
I haven't heard
I don't know if you've heard of them. And Sodalicious is another one.
Okay.
Those are the only other real two that are out there. There are some other like smaller, a couple of these communities we go into. Like we just came across one up in Boise, Idaho that we, saw. Just kind of getting off the ground. But again, a small thing.
Sounds like no one is as close to you guys as 270.
No, merely it's
sold units.
It's us and Swig. Swig has got more units. They're just went over 100 open units right now. And they're expanding as well. They're also, they're in the same markets we're going into. But again, the model's different. They're like I said, they're mostly corporate. They got a big fund behind them, and they do everything from a corporate standpoint. But at the same time, listen, we're all using the same Coke, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper.
Sure.
We happen to really like the recipes that we've kind of created. And, one of the big changes that, I've been doing and instilling is that, we are absolutely a soda shop. But at the end of the day, I want to become a beverage company, right?
Okay.
As a result of that, we now offer frozen drinks. We now offer energy drinks. We have water-based drinks. So these are all things that we've kind of incorporated into our menu over the last couple of years, and that's great. And by the way, if you look at, it's funny, when you look at Coke and Pepsi and you look at all their data, soda consumption or their brands are actually on the rise. Even though you hear all this health conscious, whatever, these brands have actually gotten smart. And I give Coke and Pepsi, credit because, now they have Coke Zero, now they have Sprite Zero.
Sure.
They're now understanding that, they have to do things a little bit differently. Consumer behavior is changing. There is a healthier connotation. Pepsi just spent billions of dollars on their new Poppy drinks, which are these probiotic
Yep, I've seen them.
drinks that we're actually testing right now as well. So they're changing with the times. It's no longer just about Coke and Diet Coke anymore, or Pepsi and Diet Pepsi. It really has to be more than that. And so we think that we have the ability to bring in these other beverages, and we're actually getting ready to launch a whole hot chocolate line. It's
Oh
funny.
wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I will tell you, like when I first came on, everybody's like, "Hey, I want coffee, I want hot coffee, I want hot coffee." And a couple of things about hot coffee is, number one, hot coffee is actually on the decline.
Okay.
Cold and iced coffee is on the rise. But having said that, what I kind of, through our data and our research, we realized, listen, we're not a coffee company. I can't compete with the Starbucks and the Dunkins and the
Sure.
Bean and Brews and, some of these other concepts that are strictly a hot beverage kind of thing. For us, it would be an inferior product. It'd be like going to a gas and convenience store. And I want to be able to provide quality. So, but we saw this big push of wanting a hot beverage, especially in some of our colder weather climates or seasonal climates. And I said, you know what? Let's do some research. And we went out and created a whole line of hot chocolates. And they're pretty awesome. And people really, really like them. And we're actually launching them on November 3rd.
Nice.
And we're excited about that. And we're going to see where it goes. But all the testing went really well. And people were really pumped about it. And, we can really have some fun. And, in our shops, we've got soda as our base, right? But we have so many flavor shops. We have so many, different purees and creams. And we've been able to create some really fun, hot chocolate beverages. And by the way, one of our best frozen beverages is actually our frozen hot chocolate. And people love it. So we want to take advantage of that. We do think there's a need. We do think that we have the right to be in the hot beverage business, just not in the hot coffee business.
Yeah.
So we're going to see where that goes, and we'll see how it plays out. But we are excited about that. But product innovation is really, really important, and I think that's what I think differentiates us. The other part of it is we're really starting to get into on the food side as well. I want every
you are? Okay, that was
so I
gonna be
want
one of
every
my questions.
customer to walk in, come in and get a soda, but walk out with our pretzel bites or our dough bites, or we just launched a cookie line and what we call FiiZ Puffs, which are kind of like little beignets, kind of like munchkins from Dunkin, but a little bit of a higher quality product. And we're excited about that. If somebody, believe it or not, people come in, they get in line at 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m. to come get a soda. Where some people are out in the coffee line, we have people out. I'm like, you know what, let them walk out with, a Danish or a croissant or, a stuffed this. So we have a whole line of stuffed Danishes right now that we're actually in test right now. My hope is if that continues to go well, that we'll launch that, first or second quarter of next year. But I
Nice.
want to get an attachment. Back to earlier about, how am I going to grow my sales? I grow it two ways, about driving customers into our store and getting a higher average ticket, to each customer. So if I'm at $7.50 right now, by the way, when I got here, we were in the low sevens. We're up over $7.50. If I can get that over, $8, $9, that's a huge win. We've got some bulk options now. So like I said, we launched cookies and these puffs, and literally starting in a couple weeks, we've just launched new packaging for bulk. So you can now come in and get 20 puffs and not just 3. You can get, a box of cookies, 6 or 12 if you want. So, so that's a way we're going to continue to grow. Listen, we understand that soda is it's the base of everything that we do. But we also think there's an opportunity, on the food side as well. And by the way, back to coffee real quick. And the other thing we're testing and really excited about is we don't think we could be in the coffee business, hot coffee business, but there is a coffee flavor business that we're starting to tap into. So we're even testing, and I know it may not sound great, but we're even testing, coffee flavors that we could put in our sodas. We're looking at coffee flavored frozen drinks. So we think there is a need. We do think people love the coffee, taste profile, and we want to try to capitalize that as best as we can.
How how do you increase your lifetime value? Like, how do you make sure they come back? Like, what are some things that you guys do to?
Yeah, for us, we
Yeah.
really, and this is where we're a little different than Swig. It's really about the experience, right? It's interesting about Swig is I would say 90% of their units are drive-through only,
Okay.
whereas even though we know that 80% of our business comes through the drive-through, having the ability to walk into one of our shops and get that FiiZ experience and interact with somebody behind a counter and whatnot, and be able to enjoy our decor and lobbies and and so forth,
Sure.
we think is really important. And listen, we get the drive-through is key, and we know that we got to continue to master that and get them through the line as quickly as possible. But I think it's really about the experience. And listen, it always starts with the employees, right? And making sure that they're properly trained and they're in their uniforms. And we want people that come in and, have a great attitude. And I think that's what it's about. We're a fun brand. We're soda we're just like donuts or ice cream. Like, this is fun. People come in because they want an experience. And we want to try to, get that message out, to our customers. So I think that makes us a little bit unique. I think, I think our drinks stand for, speak for themselves. I think we got some really cool recipes. And what's unique about our brand also, by the way, is we have a whole menu of recipes, but the reality is 80% of our business is customized. So it's Aaron walking in and ordering a Mountain Dew with vanilla cream and, hey, let me throw a mango shot in there. That's 80% of our business. So, and we don't want to lose that. And that kind of goes along our tagline is, your drink, your way. So we want people to be able to do what they want and how they feel. And a lot of times, what's also cool about beverages, and this, beverages is a frequency thing. So it's really important that our average customer will come in, 4 or 5 times a week. And because it's soda, it's a beverage, right? Most people won't go to a McDonald's or a Wendy's. They're not going to do that for it. That's usually a once a week occasion because they want to, do something different every day for their food. But for beverage, people are typically pretty loyal, and we'll continue.
So it's kind of like they're doing this instead of coffee, essentially.
Yeah, I would
so
say
they're going there in the morning and they're getting their soda for the day. Like, is that your customer? Like,
well,
what's your
believe it or
ideal
not,
customer?
our biggest day part is usually in the mid-afternoon through evening.
Okay.
And we do skew female, we do skew family, and we do skew young people. So, and as you know, you don't really, quote unquote, get real data, regarding younger people, especially in the middle school and high school. But man, they're our customers, where a lot of parents may not want their kids drinking coffee. It's okay to come and drink a soda or get an energy drink or something like that. So yeah, so the young folks are really a big part of what we do, and that's why our stores in more residential communities do very, very well, especially in the afternoon and evening. And whether that's an after school treat or an after dinner treat or coming home from a movie treat, that's a big part of what we do, and that's a big part of our clientele. Yeah.
That's cool.
Listen, when I came on board, I said to them, when I was meeting with them, I said, "What time do you guys open?" They're like 7. I'm like, "You guys open at 7 a.m.?" They're like, "Oh yeah, come on out. You'll see." And it, like you said, it's about coffee. For the ones that don't want to get in line for their coffee, they will come in line and get a 32-ounce, soda and bring it to work and sit it on their desk, and they'll sip away for the next couple hours.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, how much does it cost to open a unit?
Yeah, so our franchise fee is $40,000. Obviously, if we do multiple 5-store plus deals, that number comes down. So the first store in a deal like that, on a 5-store deal, would be $40,000 for the first, $30,000 for the second, and then it's $20,000 for each additional after that. That's kind of how. So
I meant like the build out of the store, like the unit itself.
Yeah, so it really depends geographically. Construction is a unique being these days. Real estate costs are kind of pretty much all over the place. But
is it its own freestanding unit?
Yeah,
like,
so we
that
have
you build from scratch.
Yeah, so we have options. Great question. So obviously we want to drive-through is our first preference. If you can do an end cap drive-through, great. We actually just created, we just designed and created a 700 square foot drive-thru only model with a walk-up window that you can drop on a pad. So we're really excited about that. Some of our new developers are absolutely excited about that. We do have inline is obviously an option as well, depending on where you're located. And
what's inline?
Inline meaning inside of a shopping center.
Okay, got it. Yep.
So could be, your anchor could be like a Walmart or a Target, and we can be in there.
Got it.
We just created a kiosk, for either malls or some other. We've opened up we're in a stadium, we're on a college campus now. So those options. And then what's really exciting is we actually just finalized a deal with Walmart. We just closed our first deal, actually. So Walmart, as you know, when you walk in, they got a lot of retail space in the front. They've partnered with McDonald's, Subway, Dunkin. They've got a lot of real estate available in that, there's a lot of second and third generation spaces that are becoming available. So we've actually partnered with them. So now we have an opportunity. We've put it out to our franchisees where now, they can open up a FiiZ inside of a Walmart. So we're pretty excited about that. Again, that's meant more to be like filler locations, not
not like standalone. Yeah.
But in some of these, especially in these outlying non-urban areas, these Walmarts are the center of these communities. And you can go in and do your banking, and you get your hair done, and you got the eyeglass store. And by the way, you could also pick up your drink or your Subway. But these Walmarts have tens of thousands of people that come through the doors every day. So we're pretty excited about that. We just signed on that. We got our first franchisee actually in Reno, Nevada. Just signed up with that.
Just signed up someone in Reno, Nevada too.
Oh, did you?
Just recently, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll tell you, that's a market. I'm a little surprised. Real estate's really tough to come by up there.
Is it?
Yeah, we're really...
Because you guys are buying land then. Like, you're doing land development from the ground up.
We aren't. The franchisees might. They got to go to like the retail market. Which, they're just, some markets are just very, very difficult. Not a lot of space available. They still haven't built out, a lot of retail space. But yeah.
So what's the general time to open? 18 to 24 months?
No, once we sign on with us, I would say it's really between 6 and 12 months. It really depends on the real estate and how much.
That's what I'm saying. It depends on the land.
Yeah, the land is a big part of it, and working with the municipalities to do the permitting and all that. If it's like a second generation space that was previously a restaurant, it obviously wouldn't take as long. But we've got our design, we've got our look, and And by the way, we've recreated that over. You can feel just moving forward. Ooh, you there?
So range in your FTDs, what 6? Yeah, I'm here.
No, much more, about
range in FTDs like 600 to 1.2. No.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, for sales or costs?
Cost.
No, much less.
To build a store.
250 to 450.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that doesn't include the land then.
That would be if they were. That's just for your leaseholds, equipment. And what's by the way, what's really unique about us is we don't really have a kitchen because we don't really, we don't have hoods, we don't have ovens, we don't have fryer, we don't have that. We do have a Turbo Chef technology that we use for our cook platform. Doesn't require a hood, doesn't require anything else, to that extent. So it's really, really a much simpler process. We're basically and by the way, and I say this coming from the restaurant world, from an ops standpoint, this is the easiest concepts I've ever been involved in. We're pouring soda out of fountains all day. Like, it's not rocket science.
You're not making food, really.
Exactly. And the recipes are all printed out on the POS, so you just kind of go down the line, pour your soda, pour your flavor shot. If they want cream, if they want something else, puree, put it in there, and and then you're done. So it really is simple. And I don't mean to make joke of it, but generally speaking, if you're a restaurant or even a QSR like a McDonald's or Chipotle, I mean, you're doing 3 day parts, all day long.
Oh, sure.
This is easy.
Yeah.
This is really easy.
That's cool.
And by the way, our franchisees and potential franchisees love that. They love the fact that this is not a difficult, concept. I don't have to run 4 shifts. It really, really is simple from that perspective.
Yeah. What are the biggest challenges that your franchisees face?
Yeah, honestly, it's real estate. Real estate's a big challenge, and that's kind of making us think outside the box. From from a real estate standpoint, and that's kind of how we, I heard loud and clear from my franchisees that listen, we want a smaller footprint. Construction costs are getting expensive. Finding land is getting expensive. What can you do to help minimize that? And that's how we came up with this 700 square foot, box that I can just drop on a pad or
Would they would still have to find real estate with that?
They would. No,
they?
absolutely.
Yeah.
But
or the land.
And building out a 2,000 or 2,500 square foot compared to a 700 square foot would be substantially different. So,
yeah.
So we're excited about that. The Walmart discussion we had.
That helps.
Giving people other options. So if you go into a market and let's just say you've got, you're building 5 locations, well, maybe 3 or 4 are your traditional, and then you got 1 or 2 that is Walmart. And by the way, just with other brands, these Walmarts can pump out anywhere from 6, 7 to over $1 million in revenue, and the lease structure is phenomenal, and the build out is minimal. So it's a really, really good business model. So we're going to continue to look at those types of opportunities. But real estate's a big challenge right now. I mean, it's funny. I just had a conversation with a guy, a group that wants to take all of Montana. And, it's a big state, but it's not a big state, right?
Sure.
But you can't get real estate. You literally cannot get
anywhere.
Real estate. Yeah, anywhere. Yeah. You think Bozeman, which by the way is one of the fastest growing cities, in the U.S. right now, there's just no retail space. So we got to wait for the developers to kind of catch up so concepts like ours and other brands, can kind of get in there. So it's really, really interesting to see what's going on there. And listen, the world has changed since COVID and the pandemic, right? These urban areas people are leaving. Like that's just the reality.
Yeah.
They're moving further out, whether it's suburb, rural. That's just the reality of it. So these big urban markets are, there's more real estate now on the urban side, but most people don't want to go there because the population base is shifting outside of there. So,
sure.
So we got to work through that as well. But yeah, definitely real estate, and that's a big part for us.
What kind of research do you do in a market to determine where the to give them the parameters? Like if real estate's a challenge, but it's like, no, these are the spots where you're going to get the most amount of return.
We look at a lot of data. We look at traffic counts. We look at income, income in the area. We like to see a breakdown of the demographics as far as, age of your population and so forth. This is where AI has really helped out as well. We use some third-party AI services now that really provide a lot of that information, for us. But at the end of the day, traffic count's important, location's obviously important. We want to make sure the egress is good going in and out of the center. And as a consumer, man, if I got to go up and out and make a U-turn and turn back you're not going to stop.
It's going to be a huge pain in the butt.
So, we got to make sure, and sometimes we find, hey, it's on Main and Main, it's great, yeah, but I can't get into your shopping center. The traffic is just, there's no light there. So we look at it all, and at the end of the day, we want to just be able to provide the proper feedback to our franchise partners, so they obviously can make that decision with us. But yeah, there's a lot of data out there now. That's one of the good things about the world today, right? 20 years ago, we were all scrounging to get the right information. Now the information's available pretty freely. So,
how are the franchisees? Those you said you had 50 that were. How many of those were franchised and versus corporate? The 50 when you got involved.
Yeah, great question. When I came on, we actually had 7 we had 7 corporate locations in addition to all the franchise units. One of the things that we have done is I didn't feel we had the infrastructure in place to be able to be a franchise organization and also be an operator of stores.
Yep.
So I made the decision with the approval of my ownership team, but we decided to sell off 6 out of those 7, give them to franchisees in those markets that were successful, and just operate, 1. So we have 1 corporate store, which is great for us because that's where we do our R&D. That's where we get to do a lot of our testing, our ops initiatives, and things like that. It's a high volume location. It's right by, our corporate office. So we've got 1. My plan is to keep that 1. It's got tremendous value for us. But at the end of the day, like I tell everybody, I want my franchisees to do well. I want them to prosper. So if there's an opportunity, I wanted to give them that opportunity to take on, some of these other locations.
How are the franchisees doing since you shifted culture, and like the ones that have signed after those 50? So that you said you got 20 open,
yeah,
that are newer.
Yeah, I think they're really excited. One of the things I mentioned earlier is I really had to come in and really kind of evaluate where we were from an ops standpoint and from a cost structure standpoint. I've since gone back, and partly lucky because my Pepsi contract was coming up and we needed to renegotiate that, and our volumes were much greater than they were previously, and we went ahead and renegotiated better terms. I've gone to pretty much all of our vendors at this point, my supply chain guy, and said, listen, we got to do better. I got to continue to drop costs. And, we're coming off the pandemic now. Things are starting to normalize a little bit. And then we got hit with this inflationary period, right? And tariffs and, and all that. But generally speaking, when I came on, I kind of had a goal. I wanted to shave between 6 and 8 points off of our P&L. And I think we're there. I think we've accomplished that in the first year. Took a lot of work, took a lot of effort. And by the way, there's more coming, right? And that's where we're in the process of a big upgrade right now to our POS system. So the system that we're currently using is a little bit antiquated. It's not really what we need. We did a whole assessment of that. We just selected a new POS system, and we're going to be able to integrate now our own inventory management piece, supply labor management piece into that POS system. So that POS will become the foundation of pretty much everything we do. And we know that if you manage your inventory properly and you do, as a restaurateur, if you do these certain things, there's additional savings, to be found. And we're super excited. And this company that we selected, a company called Synergy Solutions, they say on average you're going to get a 2 to 4%, additional savings by doing this. So we're excited about that. We're excited to be able to launch that, to our franchisees. It'll be available to all of our new stores. Will be required moving forward, and we'll work on a plan to eventually get as many of them, many of the older operators to switch over.
That's awesome. And describe your perfect franchisee.
Yeah, wow. You know what? I want somebody it's really important that they've got restaurant experience, hospitality experience, business experience. I want them to be well capitalized. That's a big important, and that's a big piece that I tell my franchise guys, I said, listen, we've got certain metrics that we want them to be able to meet certain qualifications. So I think between that and, multi-unit, well capitalized, that's a good success. And to your point earlier, those guys will be generally more successful than the one-offs, right? It's just a different mentality, and they understand and they get that. It may take 6 months or a year to get to break even and whatnot, because you got to reinvest in your business and so forth. Whereas the mom and pop, they're basically living, check to check and month to month.
Check to check, yeah.
So we wanted to change that mentality, and that's been part of the challenge. It's funny, I created a brand advisory council. We have a bunch of franchisees that are part of it, and we actually had a meeting last week, and I had one of my franchisees. We were actually doing our development presentation, showing them all the things that we're in the middle of and who we've signed on and whatnot. And she was like, just do me a favor. I love everything you're doing, but don't forget about us little guys, And I said, listen, we're not here to forget about you. We're just here to kind of take this brand, to another level. And some people are uncomfortable with that.
Sure.
They're like, hey, we were the first. We were here before everybody else. Make sure we're doing it. So listen, you keep doing what you're doing. We're here to support you, whether you're a one-store operator in Salt Lake City, or you're a 10-store operator in Orlando, Florida. Our goal is to be able to provide for all of you guys. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you or FiiZ?
Yeah, come on out to FiiZDrinks.com. Check us out on our website. There's definitely information there. If you want to reach out personally to me, listen, I'll give you my cell. It's 305-213-6243. My email is scott.ball@FiiZDrink, DRINK.com. But Love to chat with people. I can talk all day, as you've probably learned from this podcast. But love to talk and love an opportunity to get more people involved with FiiZ. Listen, this is a great opportunity. There's still a lot of space available, a lot of opportunity throughout the U.S. and internationally. So love to talk to you guys, and you'll get my one-on-one attention all the time.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate you coming on the Scaling Podcast.
You got it. Thanks, Aaron. Great day.